Our first guest on today's show has a specialty in our community that without some of us, many of us that own Land Rovers or Range Rovers would be deprived the quality of services that we deserve as a community. And fortunately for us, and those of you that don't know will be glad to hear, there is a shop in town that we endorse that is absolutely of the highest quality and integrity and worthy of your support. It is a privilege and an honor to introduce you to Brian Thornhill, owner of British 4x4 of Reno. Brian, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning, Mitch.
If you would, start a little bit about your history in the Land Rover, Range Rover field and how long you've owned your shop. And then also, there's been a name change recently, so let's talk about that too.
Okay, Mitch. In '99, I went to work for a local dealership, received factory training. I was there about 6 years, left there and went to work for a private collector for 5 years, and opened my own shop in '09, dedicated to taking care of Land Rover vehicles and utmost customer service.
And for those consumers that may recognize your business by your original name, let's talk about the name change, when it occurred, and what it is today so that they can recognize it's the same business.
Okay. We originally opened in 2009 under Land Rover Specialties. We have recently changed that name to British 4x4 of Reno to make sure that there was no confusion between a dealership and an independent repair facility.
Well, and the reason I asked you on the show today, as a Land Rover owner, I've experienced an issue with my suspension that I'm hearing is very common with the Land Rovers on several different models. And I'd like to take some time and discuss this issue and what the options are, because some people will only hear one option and there's more than that. So let's start with the issue, which is a control arm ball joint issue.
Correct. Control arm bushings and ball joints are tending to wear out between 15 and 20, 25,000 miles on 2006 to current LR3s and sports. Most people will attribute this to excessive tire wear. You'll start seeing outside tread wear. Most people will tell you, tire shops and such, that either tire pressures are wrong, alignment is out. The true fact of the matter is both of those can definitely attribute to this issue. Most customers will notice the biggest clue that they have a bad control arm bushing or ball joint will be in and out of parking lots, over speed bumps. You're going to hear a clunk noise. You'll feel it in the floorboard. A lot of customers start to recognize this in city traffic, stop and go traffic. When you apply the brakes, you'll hear a clunk, feel the vibration up through the chassis. That is generally a very good indication that the control arm bushings are excessively worn.
Well, and I have a 2005. You said 2006 and up, and I have a 2005 LR3, and it also has that issue. So they may become more prevalent in the newer models. And you're right, the noise is you tap on the brake just a little bit more aggressively than normal, or you go over a speed bump in a parking lot and you hear a ta-dunk, ta-dunk. And then you're right. I've experienced with mine poor tire wear from the inception of the vehicle, and I always heard, well, it's a four-wheel drive, and or it's alignment, or it's tire pressures and all that. And it turns out later on that I find out that these control arms are a very common problem. Now, instead of just going out, and in a lot of cases, we would recommend people really try to go with original equipment manufacturer parts to get the same or similar life expectancy that the manufacturer designed for a component. But in some cases, occurrences like this one, there are options that could be superior to an OEM, original equipment manufacturer component. So let's talk about the options that people have that have this problem.
Okay. The largest issue in the control arm bushings is the factory OE bushings are a rubber bushing that have a great deal of space between the center of the bushing and the outside of the bushing. Consequently, that rubber is giving an enormous amount of space between that area. The option that I prefer to use is a polyurethane bushing, which is a solid polyurethane, polypropylene bushing, which does not have those voids. the longevity of that bushing is going to be 4 to 5 times longer than a factory bushing. So in most scenarios, the customer is going to do one set of bushings in the lifetime of their vehicle instead of 2 or 3 sets in the lifetime of their vehicle.
Well, and you said that, I've driven the cars with both original equipment and the poly bushings, and there is I believe, in my opinion, and of course each person has their own preference of ride, a superior ride quality and handling characteristic to the poly bushing. So if you can describe how that translates into the ride qualities.
Well, in that rubber bushing, you have that extra space provided in the softness of the bushing. You will feel that in the steering. The car will feel looser. It'll have more give to it. Applying the polyurethane bushings, you end up getting a much more solid steering, and you take away one element of give in that system. It is much more responsive, a lot firmer as far as steering goes, and most of my customers have been very receptive to it and very much more enjoy driving on a polyurethane bushing.
Well, and the option of going with OEM on this component and facing 12 to 25,000 mile intervals of having to do this is not an inexpensive repair. Doesn't really make as much sense when you have an option that can give you much longer life expectancy. The ride quality is slightly, but I say almost undetectably firmer. But you're right, the handling characteristic is tighter, more responsive, and for Land Rover consumers, being able to control that vehicle is a really good thing. And there's less float back and forth in the lane with these as well, I sense. Is that typically what you're hearing as well?
Correct, exactly. Again, when that control arm is held tightly, and for those who may not understand what a control arm is, the control arm is the component that holds the wheel and tire in the true and straight position against the frame. So as that control arm bushing starts to wear, it allows that tire to change its directions and change the alignment spec of the vehicle. So as the rear bushing starts to wear down on these vehicles, it allows the tire to go from a towed in position, which is factory specification, to a tow out position, and causes the car to start to wander. It will allow the tires to grab more ruts in the road, move around more often, and feel, as a lot of people put it, like they're driving a school bus. They're constantly trying to catch up to the vehicle.
Well, and thank you for taking the time to describe the control arm's function. And I because it's radio, I want to maybe give a little bit more detailed picture of what this control arm really looks like when it's going into, let's say, a pothole, for an example. And you're traveling at some kind of a speed of, let's say, 25, 30 miles an hour, and the wheel drops down into that pothole. Well, when that front of that wheel hits that barrier of the front edge of that pothole, the whole wheel is then shifted to the rear of the vehicle by the force of that impact. And that's what those control arms do, is to try to absorb that over the speed bumps, in and out of potholes, and still keep and then return to the aligned position, correct?
Correct. I mean, they hold the tire in its horizontal position against the side of the vehicle.
So if you're experiencing this problem, this is a very common problem. They're repairable. There's a tremendous benefit to the potential upgrades. And if you want more information on that, it's British 4x4 of Reno that you want to call. Absolutely, without a doubt, we're blessed to have their shop for our Land Rover and Range Rover owners in Northern Nevada. If you have been experiencing a frustration or a lack of quality, or if you've had multiple attempts to fix the same problem at another shop, Land Rovers and Range Rovers are really specialized vehicles, and to have somebody that is focused on them day in and day out is a real advantage. One of the things that I want to talk about too is, because the weather just got hot, and there's a whole bunch of things that come out this time of the year because of the temperature, is the coolant systems and cooling systems on these vehicles. And I'll let you share this, because you had some recommendations for folks about having these inspected.
Definitely. In the summertime, especially with newer vehicles, and it does not just pertain to Land Rover vehicles. Most all of new manufactured vehicles at this point are built on aluminum-based engines, and aluminum engines do not like heat. And Land Rover vehicles have a tendency to leak coolant, and the systems need to be inspected. If anybody out there is concerned about this, please swing by the shop. We'll take a quick peek at it and look to make sure that you don't have any coolant system failures. A small hose, a small leak can lead to thousands of dollars in repairs very quickly, and not just with Land Rover vehicles, but with any of the new manufactured engines out there that are aluminum based.
Well, and thank you for saying that, because the aluminum, if it gets too hot, it can change shape, and then you have, like you said, catastrophic repair bills instead of a small, inexpensive hose repair.
Correct.
And you're talking, most of these hoses are pretty inexpensive and very quick to change. Yet, if you warp the heads on an aluminum block, you could be looking at major engine repairs in the thousands of dollars. Again, you talked about people having this inspected. Let's talk a little bit about your location and how they can get a hold of you, website, et cetera.
Okay, we are located at 50 Freeport Boulevard, Suite 7 in Sparks, Nevada. We are between Glendale and Gregg, 1 block west of McCarran. The phone number is 358-2003. You can also find us on the web at British 4x4 of Reno.
And that's Brian Thornhill of British 4x4 of Reno. Again, let's give him your phone number one more time if somebody just grabbed a pen.
It is 358-2003.
And for those of you that remember him from the name Land Rover Specialties, same business, new name, same quality, and absolutely, again, a gift to our community. We thank you for taking your time to be on our show and for your support to the Land Rover and Range Rover community and our educating and helping us fulfill on our commitment to educating our consumers one car buyer at a time. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.